Okay, this video is going to talk through the most important thing in Forbidden Lands, getting from A to B. So in Forbidden Lands, one of the things that's really important to understand is it is a game as much as anything of travel. So what you can see here, I'll just get the character sheet to go away for a second, is a part component of the standard Forbidden Lands map presented on Roll20. And the characters have been travelling, which is why these white lines exist and these two encounter locations exist. So each of these hexagons, as they're called in the rules, represents a distance of travel. It also has characteristics of terrain. So what you can see is I'm in open plain here. However, over here I've got mountains. Over here I've got sea. Down here I've got forest. I've got a hole in the ground down there, and obviously I've got encounters. I also have lakes. So as I travel through a hexagon from point A to point B, which I will take us through in a second, I will encounter these terrain types. So at the moment, in both cases, these characters have not encountered anything difficult. However, it was surprisingly tough travel, actually, having said that. So let's go with what we know and start talking through travel in Forbidden Lands. Okay, so travel in Forbidden Lands is primarily comprised of three fundamental components. One component is the movement itself, which is basically the hiking. The second component is the camping, and the third component is the foraging. So we're going to do all three. I'm not going to touch on sea travel. It's pretty much the same as everything else, except you use, I think it's the sailor trait or something. We'll worry about that later. Okay, so when I'm traveling through Forbidden Lands, the first thing I need to do is recognize that I am hiking. And hiking basically means covering a number of hexagons per quarter. Each day is broken up into 4 quarters, morning, afternoon, evening, and I think nighttime, and I can cover a certain number of hexagons within a quarter. So if the terrain is difficult, and an example of difficult terrain is like a mountain, then I can only cover 1 hexagon per quarter. If the terrain is open, and to use that explicit example we were just looking at a second ago, all of the stuff that the white line crosses in my picture is open terrain, then I can travel 2 hexagons if I'm on foot and 3 if I'm mounted, for instance on a horse, or in the case of my party, a moose. So we can travel either way. Now when the characters move forward, they can choose to do that travel. What they have to do is there's two key roles in travel. One is the leader or the pathfinder, and one is the person keeping watch. So as the party moves through the terrain, they're obviously worried about horrible encounters and terrible monsters, and they're trying to avoid that if at all possible. So we're just going to have a quick look at what happens there. So the first thing we do is we nominate someone to lead the way. So that is the person usually with the best survival skill, and if they're lucky enough, as we are, to have a character who also has the Pathfinder trait as an example, and I'm just going to open up Radis so you can see what I'm referring to. So Radis has Pathfinder, so that means he gets +1 to survival checks when he leads the way. So if I have a look at his survival, it's currently Wits 3, and he's got 3 points of skill, which gives him 6 dice, but if it's a roll for leading the way, then he gets 7 dice because of that. So if I click on survival now, it will give me 3 dice base, 3 dice skill, 0 dice gear, and I would increase the skill die by 1 to represent the fact that he's got that talent, which now gives me 7 dice. So let's roll for Radis and see what happens with his 7 dice. Okay, so Radis is not doing a great job of leading the way. He has given us a Bane, and if you have watched my skill video or understand Forbidden Lands, you'll understand a Bane is a bad thing. So what are we going to do about that Bane? We're going to potentially push, because if we don't push, we may suffer a mishap. So we're going to first of all push. Oh, forgot to reduce the dice pool by 1 because I had a Bane, also covered in my skill walkthrough. So I now push, and we see what I get back. Aha! So Radis has taken 1 point of wits damage, but he's gotten 2 successes, which is all he needs to avoid a mishap. Now, if I hadn't have done that, and he actually did have a mishap, and we'll just go to... no, we won't, because I don't have it open. Okay, let me just open it up, and then we can... Actually, I'll just pause the video there, and I'll be right back.